Hi everyone, and welcome to another day at the house at Pig Corner. It's now very slippery all around the shed and the annex, so we're hoping for drier weather soon, as this is no good for the pigs at all. No wonder some of them prefer to stay indoors in the warm and dry. This is about as wet here as it's ever been. For any first-time visitors, the channel's based in southwest UK near the North Devon coast. So we're right in the path of any weather which blows in from the Atlantic. Today's video focuses on Dudley, and highlights his early days here, and the changes he's been through since then. So you won't see too much mud and slush today, as a lot of the clips are indoors, or during the summer months. Dudley is a younger brother of Stanley and Harvey, and there are distinct similarities, especially with Stanley. Stanley also features in one of the following clips, so you'll be able to see for yourselves. Dudley was born in early January, so is now just coming up to 1 year old. He arrived here aged just 5 weeks, so had to be chaperoned and looked after for the first month, before being let loose outside. Initially he lived with Amos and Pike up in the top part of the shed, along with his brother Dexter, who we very sadly lost, just earlier this week. So you can see how small he is here, on his first full day in the penthouse suite. I have to say how good Amos and Pike were as nannies, especially Pike. It was as if they knew they had duties to perform, helping the young ones to get settled in properly. And that's exactly what they did, for a whole month, until Dudley and Dexter had grown enough to be let outside under supervision. They had a wonderful time initially, exploring all the ramps and tunnels in the upper part of the shed, as that's where they were confined for the first week or two. This is right up at the very top, against the underside of the shed roof, and there's no doubt Dudley loves it. Gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, like a rat up a drain pipe, doesn't it? Pike and Amos now sharing a bell pepper, with little Dudley trying to nose his way in between them. Bit of camera wobble there. If I remember correctly, that was Stanley down on the ground floor, rubbing against the base of the tripod. Sorry about that. After a couple of weeks, with the rest of the herd safely outside, all the trapdoors were opened so that they could explore downstairs. This opened up a whole new world, and Dudley especially was very excited by it. He was by far the braver and more adventurous of the two. But it was also a treat for Amos and Pike to be allowed down here, and you can see how much they are enjoying it too. So we now jump forward a couple of months to springtime, and Dudley's really grown and developed into a very excitable young chap. And he isn't slow to practice his flying leaps at the rest of the herd. This one was aimed at Harvey. But there were other occasions when he did the same to Stanley and even Albert. Over the course of the summer he always seemed to be getting himself into minor scraps, often coming out of it second best. Maybe he was the instigator, or perhaps the others were trying to get him to temper his behavior somewhat. Whatever, he was often seen sporting a bloody nose, or scabby nose. It would heal and look fine, only for it to happen again pretty soon afterwards. This is late summer, I think, and he has indeed got what looks like dried blood on his nose. My guess is that most young boars go through a phase like this when finding their place in the hierarchy, before eventually learning their lesson, and settling down a bit. Dudley politely nudging Gordon out of the way here, before having more or less the same thing done to him by Harvey no less. That's pretty brave of Harvey, as I wouldn't have expected to see him doing that. So this is now into autumn, probably sometime in October, as it's Albert that Dudley's sharing with here. There's good news on Albert, by the way. At the last weigh-in he was 1.575 kilos, which is 100 grams or so less than his initial high of 1.68. So that brings you up to date with Dudley, who for a while threatened to become the new white Menace, but who's now settled down and isn't really a problem. If you'd like to see more of him in his youth, there's a list of videos in the description below. Plus he now has his own dedicated playlist on the channel homepage. Hope you enjoyed watching. See you again soon.